All right, I'm back, part two. So we left off at Amos chapter 4, and we left off at verse 6. So let me get back there right quick. Amos chapter 4, verse 6. And so God says they were being hypocritical. They were worshiping him, but then going back out and doing their own thing. Not their minds wasn't focused on God. So he gets down to verse 6, and he says, "And I also gave you cleanness of teeth in all your cities, and want of bread in all your places. Yet have you not returned unto me, saith the Lord." So God is saying, I took away your bread. Okay, that's a sign. That's a wonder. I took away your bread, and you still didn't return to me. So God is showing that he's taking small little things away before he fully destroys Israel for their disobedience. This was a sign. This was a memorial back, when we go back to Mount Gerizim and Mount Ebal, so that the children of Israel would know throughout their generations forever if God is blessing them or cursing them. So now I'm taking your bread away because you're doing something that's disobedient, but you didn't hear me. Verse 7. "And also I have withholden the rain from you. I have stopped the rain." That was another sign, another wonder from God, letting them know, hey, I have stopped the rain. You're not listening to me. You need to catch my signs. But yet God is still good, because he's going to show that he allowed it to rain in some places so they can still have drink. He didn't want to destroy them. He was just trying to give them signs to know, hey, you're messing up. Come back to me. God does that to us as well sometimes. He throws little things at us to get us back, to wake us up. Okay? So he says, "And I have withholden the rain from you when there was yet 3 months to the harvest. And I caused it to rain upon one city, and caused it not to rain upon another city. One piece was rained upon, and the piece whereupon it rained did not wither." See, I left green land for you. I left you something to eat. Yes, you had to travel far, but I did it on purpose to wake you up. Why is your land not green? Okay. Verse 8. "So 2 or 3 cities wandered into one city to drink water, but they were not satisfied. Yet you still did not return to me." I'm giving signs. I don't want to hurt you. I don't want to destroy you. I'm God. I'm stronger than you. And I can take you out, but I don't want to take you out. So I'm throwing signs at you. I'm throwing wonders at you so you'll know. Verse 9. "I have smitten you with blasting and mildew. When your gardens and your vineyards and your fig trees and your olive trees increased, the palm worm devoured them. Yet you have not returned to me. I sent the locusts to devour your fruitful trees, and you still didn't turn to me." This is to answer the question of someone who might say, how do I know that God is not talking about literal Egypt? How do I know the references of rain that God are using? And how do I know the references of fruitful seasons and green lands and unfruitful seasons? You go on to Amos. I'm showing you how God uses, because it was a memorial. Deuteronomy chapter 27 and 28. These are memorial. Write them on stone. And if these things happen, you know I'm blessing you. If these things don't happen, you know I'm cursing you. Verse 10. "I have sent among you the pestilence after the manner of Egypt." So the same plagues that I sent on Egypt, the same pestilence that you've seen that I sent on Egypt, I brought those on you. That was a sign. You're doing something wrong. Turn back around and come to me. I don't want to hurt you. Amos is way after Egyptian bondage. Way after. And God is referencing them back to Egypt. That's some significant importance there, because that goes back to what God was saying. It's a memorial. Egypt is a form of slavery. Egypt is a form of pestilence. And so when you're in slavery and when you're going through pestilence, you're going through Egypt again. Why are you there? You shouldn't be there. You're not in physical Egypt, but you're in a place like Egypt. You're living a lifestyle like Egypt. You're in slavery again like Egypt. You're in pestilence again like Egypt. You should not be there. Why are you there? Wake up. Think about the memorial that I've done for you. He says, "I killed your young men with the sword, and I have taken away your horses, and I have made the stink of your camps to come up in your nostrils. Yet you have not returned unto me, saith the Lord." You're supposed to be healthy. You're not supposed to be stinking. Your people are not supposed to be dying. And you still are not returning to the Lord. I've given you all these signs, all of these tidbits to return to me because I don't want to destroy you. But guess what? I have overthrown some of you as God overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah, and you were as firebrand plucked out of the burning. Yet you did not turn unto me. Therefore, thus will I do unto thee, O Israel. And because I will do this unto you, prepare to meet your God, O Israel. It's judgment time. I have sent you sign after sign after sign. I have sent you wonder after wonder after wonder. I have taught you this through generation. And I took a little bit here, a little bit there to wake you up, and you didn't listen. Prepare to meet your God. Judgment. Then he says, for behold, he forms the mountains, and he creates the wind, and he declares unto man what is his thoughts, that maketh the morning darkness, and treadeth upon the high place of the earth. The Lord, the God of hosts, is his name. God is an army all by itself, and we don't want to go against that army. Israel didn't want to go against that army. Let's look at 2 Chronicles chapter 7, verse 10, and let's see what God says to Solomon. 2 Chronicles chapter 7, verse 10. We're going to look at 10 through 14. It says, and on the 23rd day of the 7th month, he sent the people away into their tents, glad and happy in their hearts for the goodness that the Lord has showed unto David and to Solomon and to Israel's people. So they're glad, they're happy, they're joyful for all that God has done for them. And God says, but don't forget, I want you to pay attention to something. I want you to recognize the memorial that I had set up. So he tells Solomon, thus Solomon finished the house of the Lord and the king's house, and all that came into Solomon's heart to make in the house of the Lord, and in his own house he prosperously effected. Verse 12, and the Lord appeared to Solomon by night, and said unto him, I have heard your prayer. I have heard it. Prayer works. And have chosen this place to myself for a house of sacrifice. But you're celebrating. You're happy. But I want you to remember, I want you to go back to the memorial. I want you to go back to the signs and the wonders. You're prosperous now. But if you see at any time, I shut up the heaven that there is no rain, that's a sign. Something's going on. I'm not with you. I have left you. Or if I command the locusts to devour your land, that's a sign. That's a wonder. Or if I send pestilence among my people, that's a sign. Pay attention. Something's wrong. Verse 14. But in order to get out of this pestilence, in order to have it rain again, in order to be blessed, if my people who are called by my name, verse 14, shall humble themselves and pray. Prayer works. You don't ever cease from prayer. Prayer works. It gets us back right to God. It gets everything answered. God can work it out. So he says, and if my people, which are called by my name, shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and will forgive their sin and will heal their land. God says, if you pray to me and you turn from your wicked ways, then I'll heal you. You can't keep living wicked and expect healing. You can't keep living wicked and expect blessings and prosperity and goodness. It doesn't work like that. Healing and blessings and prosperity and goodness comes from true, genuine obedience to the Lord. And don't get it twisted. There are many rich people in this world, but that doesn't mean that they're blessed and obeying God. Yes, they are blessed, but that doesn't mean that they're obeying God. That doesn't mean that they are acceptable to God. God doesn't care nothing about your riches. He cares about the heart. So don't be confused. God says, if you turn from your wicked ways and pray to me, then I will heal you, your land, and I will forgive you. I will make it rain again. I will stop the locust from devouring your fruitful land, and I will stop the pestilence. So that's just 2 scriptures that I've taken you to, but I can give more that shows that God uses Egypt as a reference to slavery and also pestilence, plagues. He also shuts up the rain. He also makes it rain. He also makes fruitful season and green and blessings, and he also takes those away and produces pestilence. Those were signs and wonders in Deuteronomy chapter 28 that throughout every generation, even at their time and their children after them, they would know if the rain stopped, God was not with them. If the rain flowed, God was with them. If they had fruitfulness, God was with them. If they had pestilence, God was not with them. If they were in slavery, God was not with them. Why are you in slavery? Why are you back in Egypt? You're not in Egypt physically, but you have gone back to Egypt, Babylon, Mede, Persian, slavery. You shouldn't be there. That's a sign. What are you doing there? I'm not with you. You are not obeying me. And if they didn't go back into slavery and they were blessed and they were fruitful in the land, God was with them. That is the reference that God uses in Deuteronomy when he talks about Egypt. 28:68. When he talks about Egypt, it's just a reference to slavery. That anytime they ended up under any nation into slavery, why are you there? Why are you back in Egypt? And I said, you're not supposed to go there. You're not going to go back there. I'm not going to take you back there. All right. So, but let's say God is talking about literal Egypt, and people are saying this didn't happen because Egypt, you never seen the children of Israel go back into Egypt on ships. So this has to be talking about America, and this has to be talking about black people, because we're the only ones that fit this scripture, and we're the only ones that were brought over in slavery on ships. So this has to be talking about black people. Okay, let's take this literal. Okay, and let's say God is talking about America and black people. Let's look at Josephus. Okay, Josephus was a Jewish historian. Okay, very recognized in the Jewish nation, and great history that he wrote. He talked about the nation of Israel, the Jews, in AD 70, and how Rome destroyed them. Rome destroyed records. You didn't know if you was a Levitical priest, what family you came from, the tribe of Benjamin, the Levites, Aaron. You didn't know any of that because all that was destroyed and the records were destroyed by Rome. He also shows, Josephus also shows, and other historians show, that not a Christian was killed in AD 70. Why? Because the Christians who had accepted Jesus paid attention to the signs. When Jesus says, when you see the abomination of desolation, flee, get out, because I'm coming to judge the Jews who hung me on a cross, and I'm going to use Rome to do it. So God then brought Rome in AD 70 to destroy the Jews, and not a Christian was hurt or harmed because they paid attention to the sign and they got out. Now, the Jews who didn't believe in Jesus, who didn't believe that he was Messiah, got slaughtered. They stayed there. They tried to protect the temple, got slaughtered. The temple only lasted 5 to 6 years. Took over 70-some years to build, over some odd years to build. And they only were able to enjoy it for 4, 5, 6 years. And it got wiped out. So, in Deuteronomy chapter 28, Israel is a nation. The Jews are a nation. But when you get to AD 70, God destroys them as a nation. In the book of Zechariah, God says any nation that goes against a branch will be destroyed. Jesus also says he is the stone of stumbling block. So those who obey him were blessed. Those who didn't believe him stumbled over him and were destroyed. He goes back. He's that stone of Daniel that destroys nations, that came out of the mountain and crushed the big image, the great image that Nebuchadnezzar saw. And so the Jews were a nation who stumbled over the stumbling block, and God wiped them out via Rome in AD 70. But the Christians, Jewish and Gentile, who believed, got away and were saved and were delivered because they listened to Jesus when he mentioned the abomination of desolation. When you see these signs, when you see these wonders, get out. So let's look at Josephus. Josephus, and I want to give you every detail. I want to give you books. I want to give you names, everything, so you can research this for yourself. Titus Vespasian, who was under Caesar, was the one that Josephus is going to be speaking about here, along with Caesar. Josephus in the Jewish Book of Wars, Book 6, Chapter 9, verse 2. Again, as Josephus, the Jewish Book of Wars, Book 6, Chapter 9, verse 2. These are the words of Josephus. He says, because the soldiers were now growing weary of bloodshed, and survivors appeared constantly, Caesar ordered to kill only those who offered armed resistance, and to take alive all the rest. What is it saying here? Josephus said they were so worried because of the slaughter of the Jews, because of all the bloodshed, they were so tired, and survivors kept constantly appearing, and they got tired of slaughtering them. Caesar said, kill only those who are armed trying to fight against us, but keep alive the rest, those who will surrender and those who are not in arms and are not fighting with us. Continuance. The troops, Josephus says, in addition to those covered by their orders, slaughtered the aged and infirm and those who had infirmities. So the troops were then under the order of Caesar. Slaughter all those who were old. They didn't need them. They were on their way out of this life anyway. Kill them. And those who were sick and diseased, didn't need them either. Their baggage. They're going to hold us down. Kill them. Josephus continues. People to their prime who might be useful, they herded into the temple area and shut them up in the court of the women. So those who were useful and in their prime, they put them all in a group in the temple where the women would be. They put them there. Now, when they did that, Caesar appointed one of his freedmen as their guard. He was to watch over those people that he put over there in that temple. And the friends of Caesar, his name was Fronto. Fronto had to make the decision, the appropriate decision, Josephus says, of each of these people and what should be done to them. So Fronto took all those who had taken part in sedition. He executed. What that means is if a brother turned against a brother, he executed them. We don't need you if you're willing to turn against your own brother. You're both in slavery together. Why are you fighting against your own brother? We don't need you. You can suck up to me all you want to. You can act like me and want to be me all you want to. But I don't trust you if you turn against your own brother with the same skin color as you. I don't trust you. You will never fit in with us. What did they do to them? Killed them too. Killed all of them. Killed the ones who wouldn't turn against their brother because they were strong. They were going to battle. And killed those who did. We can't trust you. Killed them. He picked out the tallest and handsome of the lot and reserved them for the triumph. So those who are handsome, those who are taller, look like they can battle, look like they can be useful, he put them to the side until after Caesar and Rome won the battle. Then, and this is Fronto doing all this, Then of the rest, those who were over 17, he put in chains and sent them to hard labor in Egypt on ships. Josephus says that Jews did actually go back to Egypt in chains on ships. And the man who accomplished this was Titus Vespasian, under Caesar, with the worker Fronto, Caesar's friend. Okay, so Titus Vespasian sent those who were over 17, he put chains on them and sent them to hard labor in Egypt, sent them over to Egypt on ships. So Deuteronomy chapter 28 is using Egypt as a reference. When he talks about the plagues, the children of Israel would have had those in most recent memory, and they would understand that they were disobeying God by the signs and wonders and the memorial that was set up. God said he would not take them back to Egypt. So that meant that he would not physically take them back to Egypt. So then Egypt would become a symbol of slavery. So anytime you're in slavery, you're technically going back to Egypt. If you're in Babylonian slavery, you technically went back to Egypt. If you're under slavery under the Medes and Persians, you technically went back to slavery. Okay, but let's say that's not the interpretation. But remember, Deuteronomy, they are a nation. Josephus is writing when they are no longer a nation. God is wiping them out. Okay, so keep that in mind. Yet, if we want to say that this Deuteronomy chapter 28 is talking about America and African slaves, Josephus kills that argument. He, as a Jewish historian who's seen all this stuff come about, said the Jews actually over 17 were sent back to Egypt on ships in chains by a man named Titus Vespasian under the rule of Caesar. At that time, they were sent back. So that would dispel still the notion that Deuteronomy 28 is talking about America and black people, African people. All right. So he says he sent them into hard labor. Josephus continues. Great numbers were presented to Titus Vespasian to the province to die. So some of them were sent to Titus Vespasian to the province to die. He carried some of them off, and they went into theaters, and they were fighting with swords, other strong men, and they were also fighting with beasts, lions, tearing them apart, tearing Jews apart. So this was a sport to them, like basketball or football. This was their sport, and they would put Jews in there, and the Jew would try to escape from the lion and run, and these lions were starving. These dogs were starving, these wild animals, and they had them fighting against other soldiers and men in these arenas, and they would slaughter these Jews. And then those who were under 17, he says they were sold. So this is from Josephus, the historian. And the Deuteronomy chapter 28 is a strong text. It's strong. But we can still use it. We can still use it. Black people, we've been through stuff like that. We've been through all that. And the way God delivered Israel, the way he pulled them out, and we see why they went into slavery, their disobedience. But we see God pull them out when he comes to them. He's a good God. He controls this whole world. And God can do the same thing today. When we serve him and we obey him and we love him and we appreciate all that he's done for him and we find him in truth. Everything we see isn't right. Every place of worship that we go to isn't right. We have to find out what is right. What is the right place? There's only one book. How are there so many different things out of one book? We got to find out what God is really talking about. Everybody wasn't God's people. In the Old Testament, it was the Jews that was God's people. Everybody else was slaughtered. Now you have the church. And all I can find in this book is one, where he talks about one people. One church, which is his people that obey him, follow him, love him. That's all I can find. So where did all this other stuff come from? We have to question those things, and we have to find God in truth. And when we find him in truth, then he can bless us. But remember, he can't bless us if we're doing wrong, if we're not living right. He can't take care of us. He can't bless us. He can't cause us to prosper. We have to come back to him. We have to pray to him. COVID-19, what is God doing? It's a sign. God is trying to bring us back. He doesn't want to harm any of us. He's trying to get us to recognize him. He's trying to get us to call on him. COVID-19 is pressing us down. And even though we try to fight it and go back out, it's still people getting sick, still spiking. I don't know if I'm next. You don't know if you're next. But when we're trusting and we're in the hands of God, he says he will protect us. And I believe that. He can protect us from COVID. He can protect us from these things. But it's here. And so what do we do with that since it's here? God says, I'm calling you. I'm trying to bring you back to me. I can shut this earth down and finish and close everything, but I don't want to lose anybody. I want people to be saved. So respond to God is what he's saying. Come back to me and I will bless you. I will take care of you. And so this lesson was a good lesson. I have been looking into this text for years. I've been studying a lot of Black history for years, slavery, a lot of scripture. I got lessons that I've already done on Black people in slavery and why the Bible talks about slavery and the different Hebrew and Greek words on slavery. I've broken all those things down, and I just give God praise. I've been blessed to be under a good leader who knows how to break down the word. I've been blessed to also have the health and the mind to be able to study, and God pouring wisdom into my heart and blessing me to stay humble with it. I don't know everything, but I'm just thankful that God pours the word into my heart that I may be able to learn and know and share with others. And I don't know everything. Everything I got from somewhere else. And we all have gotten some information from someone else. We all were born into this world without knowledge, and we learned our knowledge from someone else. And then when we learned, we went and we started digging for ourselves. And so I can never take credit for anything that I teach or that I say. It all came from God. And it all came from other people, sitting under other people, listening, taking notes, and then getting into my own studies to learn for myself, because I have to still save myself. I still had to teach my family. So I'm just thankful to God, and I give him praise, and I hope this helps you. And hey, I want y'all to have a good one.